Hello there, Lunar Squadron, and welcome back to the channel. Last week, we received the official story trailer for Jedi Survivor, and in our breakdown, which if you haven't seen our breakdown of that trailer, definitely go check it out after this video, but in our breakdown, we really focused in on all of the gameplay and Star Wars lore details that were packed within this trailer. We didn't really focus on the story details of Jedi Survivor from this trailer. However, in this video, we are going to be talking about all of the brand new story details we got for Jedi Survivor because this trailer was just packed full of so much information. We got a lot of great insight as to the direction of the story for Jedi Survivor, and we are going to break it all down in this video. But first, if you are new to the channel, we would love to have you as always, and the way to do that is just go down below this video, hit that little subscribe button, the bell notification right on next to it. It will notify you every single time Andreas and I upload the latest and greatest Star Wars and Jedi Survivor content. Now with that out of the way, Andreas, are you ready to talk about some story details?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Last week, we received the official story trailer for Jedi Survivor, and to no surprise, really living up to its name. We got a lot of great insight into the story of Jedi Survivor, but more specifically, what we really want to talk about, we got a lot of new great information about our High Republic individual. So why don't you start us off and kind of tell us what we're dealing with here?
Yeah, sure, Nick. So I think everything with our High Republic friend, call him what you want. We can call him Back to Boy. We can call him our left-handed friend. We can call him our High Republic Jedi friend. Whatever name you want to call this guy. We don't have a name yet. So it all dates back to the Bacta tank, guys. We know that this guy is going to be found by Cal. Cal's going to be using that ancient device, and it is going to either find or open up this Bacta chamber, which will reveal the Bacta tank. And inside of the Bacta tank is our High Republic friend here. Now, the new story trailer gave us some new details that when you really look into it and you really look at some of the architecture and details and composition of some of the shots, I think we can successfully trace some of these shots all the way back to this Bacta scene, which kind of lit the internet on fire when it was released. So what I want to do, Nick, is I want to point out some of these details in advance here just on the Bacta chamber, and then we can go to the story trailer and then show how they connect. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's really important here to kind of ground ourselves and start with the footage we already had and then connect it at the end with the brand new footage that we have.
Perfect. Let's kind of start with the overall composition of this shot, just the overall scene. What are we looking at? What I'm seeing here, first of all, is a very sterile, scientific, mechanical, metal environment here. Now, when I use the word sterile, that might be a bit inaccurate because it does look weathered and aged, right? But it looks like it might have been a very scientific area. We're seeing this Bacta tank, but it is obviously very it's light. It's this white metal color that's pervasive throughout the scene. But then we get some pops of color here and there, and these pops of color are going to be important, right, Nick?
Yeah, they sure are. And, I think what you mean by sterile is it really reminds me of the interior of the Blockade Runner from A New Hope. It's that very white, scientific-looking, look to it with that white metal there. That's really what we're talking about. And speaking of color, what we really want to point out, how we're going to be able to tie all these shots together is the environment, is the color, is just the overall look of the architecture. So you see that this Bacta tank is surrounded by this white metallic structure, and it has a blue trim on it. There is a blue line going all the way across. And also you will notice in the background, we have foliage back there. We have foliage growing over all of the metal walls. And also on the floor in front of Cal, there is a metallic gold trim. So I want you guys to remember all of those details we just mentioned. The metallic gold trim, the blue stripe, and the foliage growing over in the background. So as we continue to the next shot, we see the shot here of Cal closer up to the Bacta tank, for sure proving that the High Republic guy is in the Bacta tank. And in the background, you will see more foliage growing over the walls And you will see more of that metallic gold trim that is used to line the pieces of metal, that is used as an accent, as a decoration, in addition to that just more sterile white metallic walls. So we just see more evidence of that. And we've seen actual other shots from these trailers that allow us to kind of tie all of these locations together.
Yeah, we have. And so those are great details that you're pointing out, Nick, that we're going to bring up in just a moment, guys. I think the first one that we really looked for in other areas of other trailers is going to be that white metal with the blue markings that you see in the Bacta enclosure. Of course, I'm talking about these blue markings here on the Bacta enclosure. And if we look to one of these scenes from the reveal trailer, I think that's the first place where we kind of see this, is the escape pod on the left-hand side of this frame here. First, you'll see that the escape pod is made of that lighter metal, and then the lower ring of the escape pod does have that same blue highlight. We weren't 100% convinced by this one, but we did just take note of it, that there might be some markings like this throughout the rest of the trailer. And when we went ahead and kept looking throughout the different trailers for markings that might be consistent, I think that's where the Wampa shot comes into play, right, Nick?
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. And one thing I do want to give credit to for that previous shot, we have always believed since we got this reveal trailer that this sequence right here with the Stormtrooper and the next sequence with the Swampa were occurring on the same location in the same planet, because just the environment, the topography, the trees, the foliage, the rocks, it all matches. So we've always believed this is the same location. But then we started looking at the Swampa shot because we already felt that these two were connected, and we found further proof that connects it back to the Bacta tank shot that gives us more evidence as to where our High Republic individual might be located. So if you take a look at this shot, you will see more of that white architecture that's very sterile. But if you look at the building as the Swampa comes down, Andreas, I'm seeing that blue line going across that building.
Yeah, me too, Nick. I'm seeing that same lighter metal, almost a white metal, and then the blue markings on that white metal. And again, I do want to underscore the overgrowth as well. This isn't some pristine metal here. It doesn't look like it was made yesterday. It's very weathered. It looks lived in, like it's been in this universe forever. Hell, guys, when the Swampa jumps off the thing, half of this structure comes crashing down with it. And one thing that I want to draw your attention to is in the back left, you are going to see some sort of a overgrowth that is like this dark purple color. It looks almost like coral, kind of this like fungal overgrowth. Kind of reminds me of sequences from The Last of Us, but it does look like a very similar overgrowth to the overgrowth that we did see in the Bacta chamber room. And I think where this really comes into play, and to where we can say confidently that there's a direct match, is in the next sequence that I'm about to show you on screen. And that is this sequence here, the tower sequence. And we see very similar coral-like overgrowth in the bottom. And Nick, this scene here is just kind of gushing with overlapping details from the scenes that we just showed, right?
Yeah, and this is the new scene from the new story trailer. This is where we can tie it all together. This is where, this is the big money shot of this whole sequence we're talking about. You see the similar architecture. You see that saucer-like building off to the right and off to the left that matches the architecture of the Swampa building. You see that same gold trim used to outline and to decorate and to accent all of those buildings off to both the left, the right. You see the coral type stuff that you were talking about there right in the middle, right in front of Cal. And in the background, you can even see more of that blue trim used on some of the buildings in the background. Now, why is this all important? Because Andreas, I believe, and I think you believe, that this tower that Cal is looking at is where the High Republic individual is located. I think the official story trailer subtly, and without trying to tip us off too much, revealed the location finally of where the High Republic guy is. We thought he would have been in a Jedi chamber, but I think Cal is looking at the location of our High Republic friend here.
Yeah, I honestly agree with you, Nick, and there are a few reasons for that. First of all, we know how important towers and locations like this are in video games, and just the framing of this shot makes it look like this isn't just some tower that Cal is happening upon. This looks like a shot of importance, and like we've seen throughout the marketing campaign for this game, Respawn tends to put things in trailers for a reason. They don't just put things in these trailers willy-nilly, like random stuff, except for the frog guy. He might truly be random. But this shot here of this tower seems to lend some importance to that tower. And when you think about the common details with the back to chamber room, most notably the white metal, the blue markings, the gold trim, and the overgrowth, all of these details really start to tie this scene together into a common narrative that is Cal is walking somewhere around this area. He sees this tower and he goes all the way over to the tower. He goes up the tower and he finds himself a High Republic individual. Most notably, he's probably going to be led by his ancient device here that will ultimately find the High Republic individual here. But this shot, I think it just makes perfect sense that this is going to be where the High Republic individual is.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it was very subtle. I'd also like to point out that up to this point, we really thought we were dealing with a new location, a different planet than Koboh. But after just kind of taking a better look and an extended look at the overall topography of the rocks and the way it looks, I'm starting to believe that this is actually a location on Koboh. We know that Koboh is going to be massive. So if I was a betting man, I would say that we are going to find our High Republic friend in this tower in Koboh or on Koboh. So guys, let us know in the comments what you think of our theory. But I would like to continue because we got some more information about the High Republic guy. Now that we've located him, I want to talk about his motives, because if you guys remember back to the last trailer, the reveal trailer for Jedi Survivor at the Game Awards, he had a voiceover where he talks about, I was betrayed by the one I trusted the most. I will not be imprisoned again. And we really tied that with what we had from the teaser trailer of him with yielding the red lightsaber. We were able to connect the dots that was the same character, the same individual. And we were starting to believe that this guy had been betrayed by the Jedi. He had fallen to the dark side, perhaps a Sith of some sort. And that is why he was taking on Cal. That was kind of how we had connected the dots. But we actually learned from this new story trailer that is not the case, because we get a voice line over where he says, how could you allow this unworthy machine of an empire to come to power? How could you guys let this happen? So what that tells me, Andreas, is he is pissed at Cal. He's pissed at the Jedi Order, Cal representing the Jedi Order. How could they allow this to happen? Because when he was around, the Jedi were at their peak in the High Republic. How could the Jedi Order allow this to happen? And he hates the Empire. He's not going to be working in tandem with the Empire like we had thought prior to this story trailer. So he actually hates all of them. So we're actually working with some sort of free-for-all here. We're working with, Cal versus the Empire versus this High Republic guy. And we know that the High Republic guy is going to be in tandem with Ravis and the Bedlam Raiders, because we have that shot of them working together. So we know they're at least going to team up. We just had assumed that maybe the Bedlam Raiders would also team up with the Empire, and then Cal would be taking on all of them. But Andreas, we now know from more footage from the story trailer that we're working with a free-for-all here, aren't we? We're working with a 1v1v1. Cal versus Bedlam versus Empire versus Cal.
Yeah, we are. And that line of dialogue that we got, the whole how could you let this machine of an empire come to power line, that I think is the most important story piece that we got from this new trailer, for the story trailer. Now obviously we had the return of Merrin, the return of Greez, or official confirmation of Greez after the whole IGN slip up thing, but I think this was the most important thing about this trailer, because like you said, Nick, it really does give us a window into the motives of our High Republic friend. This is a guy who has had his arm lopped off. He's been locked into a bacta tank for God knows how many years, and when he comes out, he is shit pissed at not only the person that may have chopped off his arm before they put him in the bacta tank, but now he's also wondering what's up with all these hokey, white bucketed, helmeted people that are walking around calling themselves the Empire. Where the hell did the Jedi Order go? You have to think from a perspective of a High Republic Jedi who's been locked in a bacta tank for so many years. He's got to have some built up animosity here. I'm almost thinking he's looking at Cal as a representative of the Jedi. And if you imagine where the Jedi were during the High Republic, and now after so many years, he comes out of this bacta tank, and as far as he's concerned, it's just Cal now and maybe a few other stray Jedi, like here and there. You got Yoda and somewhere, you got Obi-Wan somewhere else. Like what is this Jedi Order, and how have they allowed the Empire to grow in such a regard to where they are omnipresent in this galaxy? And I imagine that all of these things are running through this High Republic guy's head, and it makes him a real wild card in this story. It makes me really wonder which way he's going to fall, and especially when we look at those red lightsaber clips from the first trailer, I'm wondering if those are a red herring and that might be a vision that Cal has, and they've made him out to be this bad guy. He could be a bad guy, but maybe they've made him out to be that. Like, what do you think, Nick?
It really makes him a very fascinating and complex character that it's almost easy to sympathize with his position, because he got screwed over. When he was around, he was he was somebody. He was part of one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful entity in the galaxy. He was doing great things. The Jedi Order had never been better. The Republic had never been better. And then he gets betrayed and put in this bacta tank, and when he comes out, he's a nobody. The galaxy is in disarray. The Republic is gone. The Order is gone. This totalitarian, awful regime of the Empire is in power now. And he's pissed about it. And honestly, I feel he's reasonably so. He is reasonably pissed off at both how could the Jedi allow this happen, and I'm pissed at the Empire for the way that they are. And it just makes him a very fascinating and complex character. And I'm so excited to see how his story unfolds, how Respawn was able to have this story unfold, because I think it is incredibly fascinating what they're doing. And then just the last thing I want to talk about briefly is the additional footage that we got that just further proves that we are working with a 1v1 free-for-all here. We have this shot, which we believe it's in some sort of final act of the game, just because we have this big battle, and now we have Imperial presence on Koboh, and we know from the 9 minutes, the earlier scenes of Koboh, that the Empire won't be there early on in the game. But what we focused on in our breakdown here was, the lore, the vehicles, the TIE Fighter, the Z95. It's not an X-Wing, it's a Z95. We realized that after the fact, and we couldn't go back and fix it. It's not an X-Wing, it is in fact a Z95. And we have the Vulture Droids. We focused more on the lore of what the vehicles are, but what we didn't focus on, and what I want to just point out very quickly, is we have Cal versus the Empire, but we also have the Bedlam Raiders, who are represented by the Vulture Droids, versus the Empire. So the Bedlam Raiders and the Empire are clearly not working together. We know the High Republic guy is working with the Bedlam Raiders, and we know the High Republic guy hates the Empire. So it just makes me wonder then, briefly, really quick, who is in control of the Empire? And Andreas, we have that teaser shot early on of the Powan senator, the Imperial senator on Coruscant. And since then, he's really kind of become an afterthought. No one's really talked about him much. And it really made it seem like maybe he was more of a side character. He got his hands on Cal's lightsaber on Coruscant, and it's just like this early game, side mission thing as a way to start the story. But I'm starting to believe that the Powan senator is a lot more important than we think, and that maybe he is the one that is in charge of these Imperial forces, pushing the Imperial forces onto Koboh. Because recently, we got a new trailer from Jedi Survivor, a new form of marketing, a new variant of marketing. If you go to a movie theater, I happened to go last week, you will see a teaser for Jedi Survivor that featured footage that we had already broken down on the channel. But at the end of this teaser, this footage, we get the Powan voice line from the first teaser where he says, "So tell me, Jedi, what is your next move?" So clearly, this Powan senator is still important. Respawn wants you to know that this character is still important to the story. They're bringing him back into the fold in the marketing. So it just makes me think that now maybe this Powan senator is a little bit of a bigger deal, a little bit more of a main bad guy, has a little bit of a stronger presence than we had previously given him credit for.
Yeah, I do think sometimes we focus so much on what's being shown in a trailer that sometimes when you start to consider what has been omitted from trailers, that can be telling as well. And like you said, Nick, there was so much huffing and puffing about the Powan Senator and the Coruscant arc in the early trailer, and then now that we've seen the story trailer, it seems like he's kind of been left in the rearview mirror. But I think it's very important to remind everyone about the Powan Senator, and I do think that this game would not put the Empire in this conflict on Koboh without putting a face to the Empire, without putting some leadership in front of the Empire here. And I'm wondering if that leadership is going to be that Powan Senator, because as we know, that Powan Senator ends up with Cal's lightsaber. He's going to know, presumably, that Cal is on Koboh. He's going to be wanting to track down Cal, maybe even. And so I am wondering if this is going to be all-out warfare, that the Powan Senator might really be the big bad of this game, and that the High Republic friend might truly be a friend. Maybe they kind of threw us for a loop with the whole red lightsaber stuff, and that might be a vision or something. And what we're seeing is maybe this High Republic guy ends up actually being Cal's friend, and he might be opposing the Empire while Cal is on some other mission here. Or it could just be, like you said, a 1v1v1, and it's just all-out chaos in the end here, every person for themselves. Let us know in the comments down below what you all think. Do you think it's going to be a 1v1v1 kind of situation? Do you think that the High Republic friend is truly a friend, or do you think he's going to be a foe? And also, do you agree with our theory that we believe that the High Republic individual is going to be located in that tower, which we do believe is located on Koboh? We'd love to hear all of your thoughts on our theories in the comments down below, and we appreciate you staying tuned with this video and the details that we've pointed throughout. We look forward to see what everyone has to say in the comments. But guys, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we will see you all next time.